Mallorca, Mr. Cage.
The guy that owns this house, what's his name?
Javi.
Is Javi gonna want me to,
I am Javi.
Nic Cage.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2022 action comedy, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, a film that is co-written and directed by Tom Gommicken, and it stars the legendary Nicolas Cage as Nicolas Cage. Also stars Pedro Pascal, Tiffany Haddish, and Neil Patrick Harris. Right, I'm sure most of you guys are watching this review have heard about this film, but if you haven't, I'll give you a little bit of knowledge on the story. Nicolas Cage plays himself in this film, or a version of himself, and he is struggling with his career, shall we say. He is given the opportunity to go to Mallorca for $1 million to spend the weekend with a wealthy guy who's a big fan, so on and so forth. And he's pretty desperate at this point, so he agrees to do it. When he gets there, this superfan, played by Pedro Pascal, Javi, is supposedly not a very nice man, and he has kidnapped somebody, and it is up to Nicolas Cage, who is then enlisted by the CIA, to help them find this kidnapped girl. Right, what are my thoughts on The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent? Well, guys, Nicolas Cage fans, you are in for the treat of a lifetime. This is a Nicolas Cage dream of a film. It's remarkable, really, because I've seen interviews with him since this has come out, on like the American talk shows and things, where he said he kept turning this film down. He just didn't think it would work. He was terrified of playing himself in a film, and so on and so forth. And he slowly came around to the idea. Well, we are all glad that you did, Nic Cage, because this is one of the highlights, I think, of his career. I mean, he has slowly been, I think, on the rise, you could argue, these last few years. He has thrown out quite a few decent films. For me, Pig last year was the highlight of his recent outings. And so he's slowly been climbing that rung again, I think. And this film, I think, is just going to push him over the edge, because it is wonderful, this film. It's everything you hoped it would be and more. It is beyond batshit crazy. But Nicolas Cage, as he always does, even in the low-budget affairs that he's done over the last few years, he always fully commits to the characters that he's playing. He still respects the art of the craft of acting. And, he unleashes himself in this film in such a wonderful way. It's an absolute joy and a pleasure to watch. And this film had me in stitches at times. It is genuinely laugh-out-loud funny. Some of the scenarios he gets himself into, some of the things he says. He has really tapped into this almost caricature version of himself that has been created these last few years. You know, this manic Nic Cage, this over-the-top Nic Cage that we all love him to do in his movies and stuff. He really, really taps into that. He knows what the audience wants here in this film. And by God, he absolutely gives it us. It is wonderfully over the top when it needs to be, but also reserved when it needs to be. There are moments in this film where he is truly just acting, and there are moments in this film where he's just absolutely in a playground and having a ball with this performance. And him and Pedro Pascal have got incredible chemistry. Clearly they get on, because these two are like two kids in a playground in this film. It's wonderful. Now, I'll be honest, other than The Mandalorian, I can't honestly tell you that I'm a big fan of Pedro Pascal. He's not done anything other than, I know he was in Game of Thrones and things like that, but he's not done a massive amount that I've kind of stood up and took notice in. Obviously, the Mandalorian is a highlight, but he's got a mask on for most of that. He's great in this. Him and Nic Cage absolutely steal every scene that they're in, and then Nic Cage, steals a couple more as well. Absolutely brilliant. And The action is ridiculous. The whole concept's ridiculous, but everything about it just works. Promise you guys, if you really like this over-the-top version of Nic Cage that we have been presented with over these last few years, decades, he's always tapped into it. This is the most wonderful, meta film I think I've seen. There's probably others out there that, top it in some way, but it's so wonderfully self-aware. It invites you in and allows you to just enjoy it for what it is. And I'm loving that this year. We are getting movies that we are just allowed to enjoy. Does this film make sense? Does it bloody hellers like? Is it classically made? No, it is an enjoyment fest. It is made for us to enjoy. Even Nicolas Cage, even people who aren't particularly fond of Nicolas Cage will enjoy this film because it is well made. The performances are absolutely perfect, and even the action's decent when we get that as well. It's just hokey as hell, completely bonkers. And I had a ball. It absolutely put a wonderful smile on my face, and I couldn't be more pleased for Nicolas Cage. I mean, I've been one of his biggest fans for a long, long time, but I've also, over the last few years, been a critic when I have watched some of his films that haven't been good. But I've always been consistent in the sense of I always think Nicolas Cage is pretty good in any film he does. He never really checks out. He always respects the films that he's in. And it covers all of that here. It covers a lot of his movies in here, all the Face Off, Guarding Tess, a lot of the Nicolas Cage films. It goes over them, it touches on them. Crudes too. Absolutely brilliant. It is genuinely funny, guys. And if you want to go and watch an action comedy that really does give you everything it promises to give you, I think you're going to absolutely appreciate this film. I certainly did. It was great. It's just what I wanted, and I can't wait actually to see it again. And I just hope this leads to more doors opening again for Nicolas Cage. I thought Pig last year was going to do it. I think it's an absolute disgrace that he wasn't nominated for an Oscar for Pig. It was, for me, one of the best performances I saw last year. But that's the snobbery of Hollywood, I suppose. Well, they can't ignore him now, because this is going to be a critical darling and an audience-friendly film. It already is, from what I can tell. 8 out of 10 from me. Probably higher score than that. But I want to watch it again. Do you know what I mean? But it's got to be definitely one of my favourite Nicolas Cage films. Absolutely loved it. So get out there and watch this one, guys. If you're going to have a fun time at the cinema, I promise you this one won't disappoint you. So thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with more content on the channel very, very soon.